Welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday. For those of you who do not want to utilize the third-party facial recognition software to access your IRS account, there's no need to disguise yourself anymore. The IRS has transitioned away from this process.
Hi, Amy.
How did you know it was me?
Have a great week, and thanks for watching.
Bye.
Welcome to the Physician Wealth Med podcast. It's wealth medicine for doctors. If you're a doctor and you have no time, it looks like you found us just in time. This podcast is for all doctors who would like to work on their personal wealth but do not have traditional hours to do so because they have no time. We're here to jump into topics that will help you address your wealth both inside and outside of your practice so that you can live the life of significance you're dreaming of. You'll hear from your peers, you'll hear from industry professionals, and your host and wealth advisor, me, Kevin Sullivan. This is your time. Now let's get started with today's podcast. Welcome to Physician Wealth Meds. We're excited to bring this podcast edition to you today from Chris and Amy Cherico. They are part of Guardian Tax Solutions out of North Carolina, and they happen to be roughing it today, coming to us from Hilton Head, South Carolina. So you can't blame them for that. See, when you're successful, you can do these type of things. But to me, I'm in the office. Hey, doctors, we've got a great podcast for you today. I have been wanting to get Chris and Amy on this podcast for quite a bit of time because of what they do. And they have a very unique way that they market their practice together. And so I don't know how many doctors that are listening right now. I do not have any kind of statistics on this, but I thought you really could benefit from what they have to say today and how they're doing that. Have you ever considered putting your spouse into your practice to market like this and have fun with it? So I have to start by saying they crack me up. All right. So when I look at what they've done over the past few years, it looks like they're really enjoying this. And they have this thing called Tax Tip Tuesdays. And when I look at this, I'm thinking, who gets excited about Tuesdays? You know, it's one of those days that everybody runs into. But when you see what they're doing, you just might get excited over Tax Tip Tuesdays. So as I started watching them, I think we connected back in January of 21. I went back out on LinkedIn and found out when we connected. But I started to get drawn in by what they were saying. I found myself saying, oh, good, it's Tuesday. And that's crazy. What I have. So anyways, they brought some excitement to Tuesdays. And I think that's really good because a lot of times we think about Wednesday and it's hump day, or Monday. It's like, oh, gosh, we got to go back to work today. But Tuesdays. So to me, personally, being in the business and running a practice too, this is a huge yet missed opportunity, I think, for marketing for business owners. So if you're a doctor and you run your own practice versus maybe one in the hospital, when you're working out of a hospital scenario, it might be a little different. But if you're a business owner, have you ever considered bringing your spouse into the practice to market together? It's a great way to involve your spouse and to grow your business together and have a lot of fun with it. Now, I know they've been doing it for a little while, and I was thinking, man, maybe they could put a video compilation together of all these videos, grab a bag of popcorn and sit on the couch and watch themselves back. But think about what they'll have to look back on when they can see the first ones, the middle ones, and the end, just their whole life on video like this. I think that's fantastic. So welcome, Chris and Amy, to the podcast today. It's so good to have you with me.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate you taking the time to have us on your podcast.
Yeah,
I have to have you both because you can't have one without the other, right? This is crazy. So my first question, I sent them some questions in advance, and we're really low key here today, but I just wanted to have them tell us how they got started on their Tax Tip Tuesday together and what maybe led them to start doing that. So go ahead.
So I think I started it by myself, and they couldn't have been more boring. So I think Amy probably made fun of it one day. We were in the middle of COVID. And then we were working outside, and we just threw up the tripod. And then I believe one of the early ones was she jumped on my back about having added weight or something weighing you down. And that was what kind of led to her participation, which the views probably went from like 7 views to a few thousand. because one of us is clearly more attractive than the other. And then at that point, Amy's humor kind of really it took off, and she kind of ran the show from that point on.
He makes it sound like it was, oh, just so that easy. But in reality, he fought me on it quite a bit because, our humor is a little bit different from each other. So I like a lot of physical comedy. I don't mind being kind of the butt of the joke. So
it's fantastic.
Yeah. So I think it was so stale what he was talking about, not to be mean. But it was just, it was hard to listen to, especially if you're someone who I was not into taxes. I admit I am not, a perfectionist at that. So for me, I'm more get in front of the camera and kind of call out what the unknown is. And so I didn't know anything about it. So for me, it was more, let's try to make this something that I can relate to. It really is what it turned out to be. And I coaxed him into doing it. I think he was just kind of desperate at that point to get, some viewers and all that stuff. And so that was our first one, is me jumping on his back while he was lifting weights to mimic like the weight of the IRS, So
because you're a former bodybuilder, all that stuff too, right?
Yeah. So I had 20 years of personal training under my belt. I did competitive bodybuilding shows, which was a lot of fun. And I think really that's what made the seamless connection to taxes was the soft skills of working with humans and being able to figure out what their challenges were. And most of my clients were self-employed. So one of the sticking points was the relationship with the tax professional and how they never felt they communicated well. And I think that's what allowed me to kind of transition into that. And then the Tax Tip Tuesday was allowing us to show our personalities, which my industry can struggle with sometimes, and making it relatable. A lot of people get into business not to have the back side of things seamless. And that's where some of their challenges become is, they're drinking from the fire hose of success, but not having the team in place to keep them compliant.
It's a great point. I tell, just on a business note, I tell doctors all the time, it's like, look, if you're the right doctor and you can solve the problem, people will cross state lines. They'll come to you in Colorado, Texas, and Arizona. It doesn't matter where you're at. They'll come and see you. But one thing that COVID did is it really changed the game for professionals in a lot of ways. What if the right CPA is in North Carolina and you live in Colorado? I mean, if you find the right one, doctors need to cross state lines. They need to jump on video calls, because if you get the right team in place, that's the person that you want to deal with. And it might not be that person that you think on Main Street, USA.
That's a great point, Kevin. And we were virtual pre-COVID, so that was seamless for us, which made it, I think, a lot more difficult for some of my colleagues where they're used to that face-to-face relationship, where that's something that we've never had. And to your point about the Tax Tip Tuesday, through LinkedIn has, we're licensed in all states. So that made it seamless. And we have so many clients that have never met face-to-face just from the presence that LinkedIn is able to provide. So that part's been fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. Just want to know how many times it took you to get the basketball, into the hoop on that one. I mean, take number 15. I don't know. Did you do that? How many takes did it take to do that one?
Probably double what we did. It was a long outtake, but it was probably double that.
There you go. And the cucumbers on your eyes back in the day when you did that spa one. I mean, oh my gosh, they're so funny. I just love it. So you told me pre-recording this here today that you did this. You started it around COVID. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it was started around COVID, and that part, again, being virtual pre-COVID just made that seamless. But getting Amy involved in having her join us. So Amy does everything that's not tax related. So that's the secure portal, contracts, invoices, and then Tax Tip Tuesday. So I'll say, let's do something about. I give the tip, and that's where then I'm kicked out of the room until the magic happens. And probably 25% of the time, I don't know exactly what we're doing while the camera's going. And then it's just that, because she wants my genuine reaction to whatever she's put into place.
Absolutely.
And that took about a solid year of doing it before he allowed that kind of a thing. It was more, I had to explain what we were doing, and it usually fell really flat to him. He did not find it funny at all.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we joked that said the more he didn't find it funny, the better it was going to be. If he
Better,
found
yeah.
it funny, it wasn't going to do well.
Oh, so that recent one that you did about the charitable deductions, and Amy's in this cover, then the armoire, whatever that was. I did not expect that. I thought that was, and there she is.
Yeah.
It's
That was probably like a playback on one of the very first ones we did was, and one of my favorites was, I made a homemade ghillie suit. And I hid in like the tall grasses. And if you go back and watch it and you know where I am, you can clearly see where I am. It's not like I'm really that hidden, but I think it took everyone off guard that I just popped up then and was like, oh, I don't have to hide anymore, from the IRS. So I think I went back to that kind of thing about, the armoire. Let's do another one like that.
So I had to ask this one to Amy. This one goes to Amy. Are you creative like this all the time? I mean, is this your mojo all the time or what?
Well, so probably, yeah. Yes, I would say. I mean, I feel like in every single situation, there's always a movie playing in my head of, it's comedy. I mean, if we're having a conversation like right now, I'm thinking of like 7 different ways of making this seem funny. Yeah. So I think it's always kind of lingering around in my head. It's whether or not I can actually put it into a video or get other people to cooperate.
Yeah. And I love it because you're taking a serious profession, like you said, and making it more relatable. And sometimes we often think about what's our image going to look like, but it's the personality, it's the people skills, it's those soft skills like you were talking about that really makes it more relatable. And I think doctors too, like if they would just say, okay, what does my patient think like when they come in the office? What are their fears? What are they concerned about? What kind of questions are they asking us? How can we make that more relatable to them by doing these type of things? And wouldn't it just be a hoot if on LinkedIn and we found a doctor doing this?
I think it would be nice. I mean, in my previous life, I was in the dental field, so I worked a lot with the dentists and stuff. So, but I think that when you do approach it from the standpoint of maybe not trying to be so perfect in sense of, you have this mentality that I don't want to say upper echelon, but you have this poise about you, and if you bring it back down to maybe be a little bit more understanding of, people are just human beings, and they really just want to be able to relate. They want to be able to connect with you and feel like you're not unapproachable. I think that's the biggest thing, and maybe sometimes having your spouse come in just kind of shows that relationship that you are capable of being goofy, or you're capable of being made fun of, or you're capable of being embarrassed, and it's fine. Everyone survives and you get past it and there's no harm done. I think that makes people feel for you a lot more.
I mean, can you imagine what that would look like at a dental practice? The guy gets his spouse on the table, or she gets him on the table, you know, or maybe even a chiropractic office. There's so many things that you could do in that fashion to make it really jump out.
I just think humor can heal so many things, and I don't mean to like brush under real major issues, but sometimes that levity is kind of nice to, everything is so serious all the time and so sad, and we're constantly inundated with that, and to just bring some kind of lightness to it, to life for a minute.
and there's so many times that I'll hear, I've watched your videos for so long. I had a CPA reach out to me in New York, and he's like, through LinkedIn, and he's like, Chris, love your videos with your wife, and it made me think of you because I have a client that's not a good fit for me. So that ability, like you're both speaking about being relatable, this allows it to be where my clients reach out to me and it's, hey, buddy, like that's what I want. I don't want it to be, hey, Mr. Sullivan. I'm sure in some situations that's correct, but I want it to be where they think of me as a colleague, as a friend, as somebody that they can kind of say, I hit a wall with this, or how did you turn the corner with that? And I want to be where I can be part of their team and I know my lane. And bringing Amy into the mix, I think, just shows another component of how that can be relatable, vulnerable, and everybody's just trying to, get to the next level.
And also, if you think about like doctors and taxes, right? Doctor, whether you're a doctor or a tax professional, like a very intimate relationship that you have with your patient or your client, and you want them to be able to be comfortable enough to ask those embarrassing questions, that
Right.
kind of questions that feel like, oh, I don't want them to think I'm stupid for asking this question. I should know this answer, but I don't, and I'm embarrassed to ask. And if you don't have that type of approachability, then you might not be reaching your clients or your patients the way that you really want to, without even knowing that you're not reaching them. So,
right.
Yeah.
A lot of us are working so much in the practice or in the business that we forget the other things to work on it. I know attention will drive success, too, in this whole thing. And with this over, 80,000 pages of the tax code or so, you guys got a lot of material. You'll never run out of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that I get asked that a lot. And there's some consistent topics that come up every year, like when the extension needs to be filed or when the deadline is. But then, whether it was PPP funds or EDIL or something that's new to the topic, or, it can be a celebrity, it can be a politician, it can be another colleague that, people run into tax issues all the time, and that's just something that the level of success of a lot of my clients that still have hiccups. Just because you're a brilliant engineer doesn't mean your rental property needs to be reported in South Carolina when you live in North Carolina. And if you just were thinking it's a rental property and not knowing that, yes, you have to file a South Carolina return, that doesn't make you any less smart. It just makes it where that's just not your space.
Yeah, that's a good point. So how many followers, if you will, or likes, or do you have?
I'd say
I don't look at that.
On average, through LinkedIn, we probably get about 3,500 to 4,000 views.
Nice.
So I think that's really good for us. I mean, we try a little bit on Facebook, transparently. Mostly it's for Amy's aunt that I post on, Aunt June. She,
Aunt June.
Yeah. Outside of that, we did some on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, we did some on Instagram. I picked up a cannabis client through that, but doesn't seem really like Snapchat's our space. LinkedIn to me is just such a professional platform, and being able to be licensed in all 50 states just makes it where it's very easy to reach out to someone. They have a problem, and then at that point they don't feel like they're going to necessarily run into you at Whole Foods, and it makes it very easy that anonymity works. And then the Tax Tip Tuesday part just, I think, makes it where there's a consistency of that post that I would love to see, a Wednesday wisdom come from a financial planner or some form of, a chiropractor, and whatever kind of, I told Amy she could have a side hustle of helping another professional in another space be able to kind of craft that, because she takes her 2 seconds for her to put it together. And what's improved over the last 3 years of doing it is doing most of it's a one take type situation.
I won't comment on the childlike behavior of some.
Oh, there's a text. I'm expecting a green room. There's supposed to be treats. Yeah, the outtakes.
People think I'm high maintenance.
There's no hashtag Chris Fan Club. That's what I have.
I love it. Yes. Well, that was one of my questions. I thought, it was that fun question at the end, kind of like a bonus question. It's like, man, you could package this up as another service that you deliver, for other professions. I thought that was kind of where you just mentioned that. That's pretty sweet, really.
I definitely think it's an opportunity given the right. I mean, I think the taxes, like you said, Kevin, that never ends with the code or the problems or what's current. So there's so many opportunities to talk about so many things. And then literally the process is me just saying to Amy, hey, we're going to go give blood, and that's a donation. And then boom, she's figured out a way to make it work from that standpoint.
Yeah. So that's it. Just being aware, I'm sure you walk around your practice now going, okay, if I say something, oh, that'd be a good one for another Tax Tip Tuesday. Your mind's always in gear like that too. So you look for those opportunities.
Yeah, my mom makes some really poor suggestions. She's like, oh, you could use a fire truck, and I'm like, you got to give us more than that. But then she's like, well, like a fire. And I'm like, there's typically almost every scenario, like death and taxes, you're going to run into some way to correlate a subject matter with a tax tip.
What are some of your common responses that you get? So someone makes a response to you. Is there a theme or something that keeps coming up?
I'd say more just they love the humor side, and it's the banter between the two of us. So I think it more resonates how they see our relationship than it is specifically. I'd say 25% is that they didn't know that, if it's an actual, a legitimate tip, because we try to keep that factual and short and to the point. But I think it more resonates the relationship between us is what they enjoy, the banter.
Yes, I think
Sorry,
that's it.
Lane.
No, that's okay.
All right,
Yes.
good. Hi.
That's pretty good. Well, one of the things I was thinking is like, what do you even name this podcast? I was thinking maybe, as the two of you sit back with your popcorn and watch all these things, you can say, honey, it's a wonderful life. I don't know.
I love that. I love that.
It's so crazy. Let's say, do you have a favorite? Do you have one or two that you have as like, oh man, we really
I
like
do.
it? Yes, sir.
I have a favorite, and we'll share it with you. And it's the one where I was constantly making mistakes on purpose, where I was spraying Amy with the hose in her face.
Yes.
So that one, I was like, no, let's try it one more time. Let's try it one more time. And I knew I was about to.
I'm shocked I kept my speech clean.
Yes,
that.
I do remember that one. That's funny. That's a good one.
Yeah.
What's yours?
I think I like the basketball one. The one that you keep like missing it. I think that was my favorite one, because it was just, we were really, really enjoying it. And I could tell there was a couple times I noticed, I don't know if other people would, but where he was genuinely rolling his eyes at me. Like he was genuinely about to turn around and yell at me.
That's funny.
With the cornhole, I made it on the first.
Oh, that
take.
was a good one. Yeah,
that was pretty good. Yeah, it's like, what was that?
That was a one shot, and then I think I messed up the verbal part, and then it maybe took me like 10 more times to actually make one again. So there's a couple times where it's just been a one take, and it's genuine surprise.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I like the one. I found myself trying to tie my shoe the other day. I mean, ever since you did that one, I've been like on one leg trying. Okay, honey, let's see if we can do this. Unbelievable. Taking the old challenge. That was pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, I did like that.
And we do get suggestions from viewers.
I love suggestions
that want to know about like if it's like the old person challenge one, that kind of thing. That was a viewer that shared that. Or someone may make a suggestion or want to know about a specific subject matter with taxes, and then we'll correlate it that way. So
that's really good.
Yeah,
because it made me think. It's like, okay, can I do this one leg thing? Am I really too old? I was just like, it was crazy, but.
Yeah.
And I had just had foot surgery and ankle surgery, back to back. So I felt pretty good. I was even able to stand on it.
And I have a good friend, Pete, and Pete has one leg, so I was expecting him to respond back and like just take it off and tie it here and then stick it back on. So we're waiting on Pete to reply.
Oh, I love it. So from a business point, because you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but what have these videos done for your business? Like, okay, this is Chris and Amy before, this is Chris and Amy now. I mean, what has it done for your business?
I'd say significant. I wouldn't have a specific number because I think there's a lot of moving parts as to how we've pivoted over a variety of things. But I think
I don't think I was even I wasn't even really the us before for the business. I wasn't really a part of it visually. I don't even think I talked to clients. When it came to that, I just did contracts, invoices, and help behind the scenes.
Yeah, I would say tremendous, though, is what I would say. And the reason I say that is because there's so many times that I'll hear, love your videos. And it could be we're in Cary at a pickleball court that a random person says, hey, Chris, love your videos, or your wife is great in the videos, or something like that. And I don't even specifically know the person. So, or it's I can be in a random spot, even at the gym, and then the person say, your video was very funny last week. So I think those random comments and how that translates to a professional or a bookkeeper or someone in the space that makes a referral is just, I think it'd be very hard to track that. But at the same time, I think you're just fresh in the mind of somebody that here's a relatable human. And then because it's on such a broad platform, and that example of the CPA in New York making a referral, like how else would he know of me except I'm on his feed? And I think not that many people are posting on LinkedIn that are actually still using it. So it's probably a consistent video that they're seeing in their stream.
Yeah. Great point. Because especially if they don't need something now, you're definitely top of mind awareness, and that's huge.
And I think that consistency that you've mentioned, that posting once a week, really resonates, that people are looking forward to it. And we've gotten better with, maybe there's one or two periodically in the hopper for the coming week, as opposed to sometimes it's Tuesday morning and I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go.
That was happening quite a bit often, here and there.
It's tough, isn't it, though? I mean, just to keep that consistency to release something every Tuesday. So, kudos to you.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I admit there's been a couple that have been repeated.
Yeah, but they're funny ones.
Yeah. And they're worth seeing again. I mean, how many times do we watch another movie a second time?
That's true.
All right. Okay. I'll
30-second movie.
30
So let's say you're a doctor, you're listening to this and you're going, okay, I've heard what they have to say, but what advice would you give to maybe a doctor or physician that is finding this intriguing, I guess?
I think the chiropractor would be a great one, just because the adjustment type situation, whether they do the manual manipulation or what does your
Atlas
friend do?
orthogonist.
Yeah, so I think that kind of, the cracking of the bones, I could just see that as the humor.
Well, wait, say your question again. Sorry.
What advice could you give to maybe a doctor that finds this intriguing? Like, what would you say to them to maybe prompt them to maybe start doing something like this?
Yeah, so I think, honestly, I would say try it out with your spouse or with a friend, or like pick somebody that you can kind of banter with on camera. And if you're not the one that feels like you have the creative side of it, opposites attract. So you clearly have somebody in your life that is the catalyst of humor or the catalyst of ideas. So use them, I mean, I think people are genuinely, some people might shy away from being on camera, but they might have the idea and just play with it, like just put the camera on record, play it out. The first maybe 20 seconds will be awkward. But our 8th grade dances, and then you kind of get past it.
Yeah, maybe with the front desk person, it might be better than their spouse. But there's things that Amy's done on it that there's no way I would have electrocuted my hair or put candy canes in it. Or there's a lot of times that my personality that's way outside my comfort zone, and she couldn't care less. So
that's awesome. I've found when you do videos, the more uncut and raw, the better. Sometimes more of the more planned one, it gets a little too serious, and then you start messing up, and you got to do another take. If you just let it flow, you can do these things with iPhones. You don't need to buy expensive equipment, I wouldn't think, to do this, right?
I use my iPhone or his iPhone. I have an old app on my phone that I don't even know that it's supported anymore. I can't even remember the name of it. I'll give it to you if you want to throw it in the link. I mean, I'm sure they still use it, but it's a video thing that I clip it. That's pretty much it. And then somebody mentioned to us about adding the name of the video, like the tip to the actual video. Because when they're watching it, they didn't know how to reference which video to watch if they were looking for a specific topic.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so that was a really excellent, another viewer suggestion, and we took that to heart and started adding it. So you'll see our old videos don't really have our the topic in the video screen, but that's all it is. And it's usually I think we invested in a tripod. Either that or whoever we're with will have them hold the camera for us sometimes, but for the most part it's no equipment. Sometimes my shoe's holding it up, I mean.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes, a tree, something.
And most of the items Amy's trying to deduct that it gets denied. No.
Sometimes I go to the dollar store. Sometimes I'm finding things in my house to just kind of rig. And then the flour one actually that we use. So I have a gluten allergy, so I can't make dough. So I have to make it gluten-free. So that took a little bit of effort instead of just going and buying a thing of pizza dough. I had to actually plan to make it. But that's
I think I was just remembering that one that you did. Was it like about the tax deadline that was coming up and you asked him a question? He was sitting at his desk, you come behind him and that, I don't know. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Why is it escaping me? It was really fun.
We've done a couple with deadline.
Yeah. What was it? I almost had it. Okay, this is me having a meltdown right in front
I love
of you.
it. Listen, it's real life.
It's definitely real life. But yeah, I thought that was funny. I think Diane and I watched that over and over again. That was
Yeah.
Most of my ideas, Kevin, get shot down. So I've been wanting to do a handful of ones that she's like, no.
Sometimes I'll let him in, and then he'll come back and say that they didn't get very many views.
I think it had to do with like a donut.
Oh, the donut. Yeah. Donut weight. The donut.
Yes, donut weight. Because that's my sense of humor. My friend tells me, she says, Kevin, you think you're funny. And sometimes you really are, but not most of the time.
She says that to me all the time.
Yeah, I was like, that wasn't. I'm like, Amy, this is where it derails. The donut. No, I'm like, no.
I did not tell him at all what I was doing. So that was a genuine reaction of his, the annoyance factor.
Yes,
that's not funny.
I could so see myself doing that. That's funny. Well, hey, as we wrap this up a little bit, just tell the viewers and listeners here about the type of work you do specifically for your tax practice and what it looks like if you're a client working with you. We'll get your business out here too as well.
So for us, Guardian Tax Solutions, about 60% of what we do is help clients get on the right side of wrong. So think of us as the triage side of things. The person that hasn't filed in a few years or has a balance that they cannot owe, and they're trying to get on the right side of wrong. For the ones that we then typically get compliant, then a good fit is typically someone in the trades industry, someone that has turned the corner or is trying to turn the corner. They need to know the difference between filing as a Schedule C or an S Corp, and then they need that kind of advice. And then we kind of put into the team a financial planner, maybe offload the opportunity cost of having a bookkeeper. So it's typically on the smaller side. We're not looking to pick up IBM as a client. It's the small side of things. And often after the first call, it's the person saying, I slept so much better last night knowing that, you're helping us to get these things resolved. Because a lot of our clients, they're not struggling financially. They're struggling because they haven't done things correctly in the past. So, and to what you mentioned earlier, if the viewers have a tax situation that they're embarrassed to talk to their current tax professional about, we can get them on the right side of the wrong behind the scenes. They can still work with the person they're working with. Because often, they're in a situation where they've known that person for years, and then they don't want to share that they either have a balance owed or they haven't filed for a few years. So that becomes, often we'll find a person is working with their family member as the tax side of things, and they don't want to share. Who are you going to tell that you owe $100,000 to the IRS? Maybe your brother or sister. Outside of that, it's not going to go much deeper. So, so think of us, if any of the viewers want to reach out, have questions about their situation, or want us to take a second look at a notice to let them know how to kind of get past it, we're happy to review their situation and advise accordingly.
Very good. We'll have your contact information up at the end of the podcast here too, with your email and all of that. So if you want to reach out to Chris on that tax, if you want to reach out to them about the videos and how to do this, they can contact you too as well on that.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
This would be fantastic. And then you can say you heard it here first. No, I'm just but I just want to thank you so much for taking your time today. It's been a wonderful chat with you guys today. I wish you the biggest success as you keep doing this, as it takes on a life of its own, because I'm sure you're at today where you probably didn't think you'd get to, but here you are. It's excellent.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and we have a great relationship, so that makes it where it's just another thing we do together. So yeah, I know and I would love to see another industry or another person or one of your viewers or a doctor run with it. That would be great. Yeah. So I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, so here's what has to happen. If you're a doctor and you start doing this, you have to let them know, okay, specifically, because their benefit to you can spread a lot further than you think too as well. Well,
yeah, making other people successful is what we want to do. So
yes, well, that's it. And like you said, you might be able to start a new service from your firm. I would say 100% go for it.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Well, if you type into AI or ChatGPT or something like that, how many % of doctors include their spouses in their marketing? You're not going to get any answers. So the field is clear and clean for you guys.
Wow,
That's amazing.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I say let's do it.
Yeah, it's there for someone to run with. That sounds
right.
great.
That's right.
Hey, from Hilton Head, live here on this podcast, Chris and Amy Cherico, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today with me on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having us. We really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday. Amy, where are you going?
I'm going to fly a plane.
That doesn't sound safe for anyone.
I mean, it's about as safe as doing your own tax return, right? And I just finished doing that. So.
Well, according to the U.S. Government Accountability Office, 50% of self-prepared returns have an error.
A what? Is that New York for mistake?
Why don't you go fly a kite, Amy? Have a great week, and thanks for watching.
Bye! That way or this way?
That way.
Okay.
Welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday. Did you know that in the state of New York, if you buy a pumpkin for consumption purposes, you do not pay New York State sales tax? But if you buy it in order to decorate or use it for carving purposes, you do.
What if you don't want to carve it or eat it because it's too gorgeous? You got it? Gorgeous. That's so good. Okay.
No. Have a great week, and thanks for watching.
Bye.
Welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday.
Oh, sorry. Don't tell anybody I was here, okay?
What are you doing?
Don't tell anybody I was here.
The IRS has some of the steepest penalties for failure to file and failure to pay. You can go to jail for not filing a tax return.
Have you seen the tax fugitive?
Have a great week, and thanks for watching.
Bye.
Welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday. Are you working with a revenue officer? Do you feel like you've given it your best shot? If so, contact me, and I can take over. Have a great week, and thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye. Are you ready?
We're going to do it?
Yeah.
You think you're
Yeah, I'm money.
confident enough?
I'm money.
So I can help you. All right. Okay, ready?
Welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday.
Arc.
And I can help. And I can help. And I can help. And I can help. Welcome to Tax.
That's our podcast for today. And remember, if you're not working on your personal wealth, who is? Please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues, and make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Any questions about what you heard today, please send an email to kdsullivan@lpl.com. Physician Wealth Meds, wealth medicine for doctors. Chris and Amy Cherico are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Physician Wealth Meds. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine your wealth strategies or investments that may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.